Paul has always been a quietly determined person, even at school. He made a tremendous impact on his school teachers who remember him with pride.
I taught him in 8, 9 and 10, and it's amazing. The only time he ever said anything to me was when it was about cricket. If Simon had umpired the week before, and then on the Monday he'd come to class and he'd say, you know, he'd chat to me about the way he bowled or the way he batted or some great catch he took. But he never ever asked me anything about schoolwork. I mean, he was very shy, very reserved, very quiet, and he never ever spoke out of line in class in any way.
But I think we must also add he was pretty conscientious. He worked very hard. He got his matric exemption. You know, so although he didn't contribute much in class, he was a hard worker.
Yeah.
From that point of view, he was good as gold.
When I suggested to him that he changed his spin, it wasn't really that I had advancement in his career in mind. I simply said to him that if he wanted to be a bowler, that the traditional orthodox action of fast bowling is the one that lasted and he'd be able to continue for a longer time. And because his action was so unorthodox, I didn't think that he should continue like that, and I suggested that he changed his spin.
Yes, I think something you'd enjoy hearing about. We promoted a new wicketkeeper, and this chap obviously had real trouble reading Paul's spin. And so they had to work on secret codes. And before Paul would bowl his Chinaman, he'd sort of mop his brow like this, or if he was going to do something else, he'd scratch behind his ear. And we have a tradition where the fielders all chirp to each other between balls and they chat in the slips. And this poor keeper would not get involved at all. He'd say, no, I've got to check Paul out. I've got to see what he's going to bowl next, you know. And whenever he managed to catch one that the batsman had missed, there was great rejoicing, you know, because 9 times out of 10 he dropped them. And I think that's one of the reasons why perhaps he didn't do quite as well at school level as he's done since, because the schoolboy close-in fielders, you know, weren't really up to standard. I actually get a little irritated that people are jumping on the bandwagon and everybody's claiming that they found him. I think he found himself, really. He's developed his own style. And I don't think he's a product of the development game. I think it's just his own enthusiasm and so on. The fact that he came to a politically incorrect at the moment Model C school is being ignored a lot, and a lot of people are taking credit who perhaps don't deserve it. So I really feel that he must take the tribute and the credit for what he's done, and since then, particularly Eddie Barlow and Duncan Fletcher, Province, who've worked very hard on him. It was quite bizarre. He came back to the school to do an interview here as well, and he was just mobbed by pupils who wanted his autograph. And a year and a half before, they were his mates, and suddenly he'd been elevated to the star status.
I mean, from being one of the guys with them just 8 months before that, he was talking to them as his buddies in the playground at the tuck shop, and all of a sudden he couldn't accept that now they were running up to him and saying, sign here, sign there. He couldn't quite. I thought he struggled with that aspect, that from being one of their buddies, all of a sudden he was seen as something different, and they struggled to know what to say to him.
It happened very quick for me. I could see him come true for me. I was like, very quickly.